Good morning. It's another business day. Welcome to Business Morning live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams.
Good morning. I'm Ini John Mefayo. Welcome to the show where let's start with updates from the world of business. Starting from the global space, oil prices were mixed today in quiet trade as some investors scooped up bargains following the recent losses while growing fears over slower demand after Saudi Arabia's sharp cuts to crude contract prices for Asia weighed on sentiment. Brent crude futures for November rose 31 cents to $72.53 a barrel after falling 39 cents yesterday. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for October was at $69.14 a barrel, and that's 9.15 cents from Friday's close, with no settlement price for Monday, and that was because of a Labor Day holiday in the United States. Demand woes grew after state oil group Saudi Aramco notified customers that it will cut October official selling price for all crude grades sold at Asia at least $1 a barrel. The deep price cut, a sign that consumption in the world's top importing region remained tepid, come as lockdowns across Asia to combat the Delta variant of coronavirus have clouded the economic outlook. Markets are also contending with the decision by OPEC Plus to raise output by 400,000 barrels per day a month between August and December.
And back here, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Deni Adeboye, has inaugurated a technical committee to review the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. The committee is expected to, among other things, review the PIA 2021 in relation to the Weights and Measures Act and its implication on the country's oil and gas sector. Highlight the implication of the Act on the roles of CED and Weights and Measures Department under the Nigerian Export Supervision Scheme, and also to suggest appropriate strategy to use in bringing the NES scheme to Trade Ministry and seek ways to remedy infractions. The minister also emphasized the need by the ministry to leverage the window provided by the review of the Act to enable it play a more significant role under the scheme in line with its mandate.
And, just before we go to our next story, Ladi, this is a reoccurring story.
Oh, yes.
We talked about the situation in Rivers State and the value-added tax.
State, yes.
Now Lagos State, and like we discussed, we expect a whole lot of states to follow suit. Because who doesn't want more money? If the state find an avenue to get more revenue, then everybody will obviously latch on it. But on the other side, we also see that business people are contending with some kind of controversy.
Because now, who do you pay to?
Exactly.
Who do you pay to, the state or the federal government?
Did say that means they will have to go to the courts.
Exactly.
To determine, as like every instance, they have to determine who am I going to pay to at this time.
Just follow what the law says, basically.
Exactly.
The law says state, so.
For now.
For now.
But do remember that there's also, the one that said they should go back to status quo.
That's another angle to this.
So that is why individuals will now have to approach the court to say, court, what is the right thing for me to do?
What do I do now? So.
But anyway, following the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt's refusal of an application by the Federal Inland Revenue Service seeking to stop the Rivers State government from collecting value-added tax, Governor Nyesom Wike has directed the State's Revenue Service to ensure the immediate full implementation of the court judgment. In a state broadcast, the governor said that the action of the statement is to seek judicial interpretation of tax laws. An eventual enabling law recently signed by the government is to contribute to fiscal federalism and reduce the over-reliance on federal allocation. The Federal Inland Revenue Service had filed an application in mid-August against the judgment of the same court, which had on the 9th of August ruled that the Rivers State government and not the Federal Inland Revenue Service is entitled to collect value-added tax and personal income tax in the territory of Rivers State.
The Rivers State government and the Federal Inland Revenue Service have been locked in a legal tussle over the right to collect certain taxes, especially the value-added tax and personal income tax. The Attorney General of Rivers State in 2020 instituted a suit at the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt to challenge the right of the federal government through the Federal Inland Revenue Service to collect VAT and other taxes. On August the 9th, 2021, the court presided over by Justice Stephen Delop Palm delivered a judgment in favor of the Rivers State government. Not backing down, the FIRS filed an application to stop the enforcement of the judgment pending the outcome of a suit on appeal, but the same court refused the application.
The issue of collection of VAT, as it were, as it stands today, the Rivers State government is still entitled to so collect. That's where we are today.
For sure, we feel that the ruling should have gone in our favor, but the court has taken a position against us, so we'll do the needful by taking it up immediately before the Court of Appeal.
To stop the continuing breach, denial.
Following the court judgment, Governor Nyesom Wike at a media briefing directs the State Revenue Service to ensure immediate implementation of the tax laws and describes as ill-advised the action by the FIRS.
Today's judgment, the way is not clear for the administration and enforcement of the Rivers State Value-Added Tax Law 2021 across the entire state until otherwise decided and set aside by the superior courts. Consequently, I hereby direct the Rivers State Revenue Service Board to ensure the full and total implementation and enforcement of this law against all corporate bodies, business entities, and individuals with immediate effect.
The governor explores the opportunity to address residents on the ravaging COVID-19 infections while justifying his decision to demolish shanties in the state to curb insecurity.
I therefore appeal to all residents to help protect yourself, your loved ones, and the rest of the citizens by getting your vaccination at the designated health centers in the state. Finally, we will not rest until we clear the state of all shanties wherever they are located and restore sanity to our environment and achieve a better sense of comfort and security for everyone.
As all eyes are now at the Federal High Court pending the outcome of the suit, the Rivers State government says it is determined to protect the interest of the state through every constitutional means.
And now to our first conversation on commodity market update. Nigeria attracted $4.2 billion in foreign remittances in the first quarter of 2021. And this shows that the amount of dollar inflow sent through the banking system by Nigerians living in diaspora fell by 24% when compared to $5.6 billion reported in the same period last year, which was actually the pandemic year. Also, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been paying a lot of attention to this. We have Nosike Nwajidin, our research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, to break this down for us. Good morning. Great to have you on the program.
Good morning. Always my pleasure.
Yeah. So this 24% drop year on year, especially having the base year as the out of the pandemic year, shouldn't remittances be going up at this point?
Well, it's neither here nor there. There's obviously the effect of the pandemic last year.
Right.
Then there's the Delta variant now, where we thought that by this time economies will be the engines of economies will be pumping on full stream. But the variant means that especially the hospitality industry, it's constrained at the moment. People cannot come out and sit outside like they ordinarily would. Restaurants, hotels, businesses, just people moving outside. I mean, that's the major constraint to the global economy. And even the U.S. Fed is now coming out to say, okay, we might keep our extraordinary monetary policy a lot longer than we initially thought, given that the Delta variant has sort of distorted all our projections for economic growth and even global growth at this point, because the U.S. is a major engine of global growth. So that you have the pandemic on one hand, then you have the Nigerian economy here with the uncertainty and the lack of confidence with the Nigerian forex policy. I mean, there was the Naira for dollar policy where you get...
There is still the Naira for dollar.
It's still there, right?
Yes.
Where you get 5 Naira for every dollar you bring in. But
right.
Nigerians overseas are a bit skeptical about the restrictions to inflows and outflows, and many of them have resorted to using black market means for bringing in
Like what other means are
like
there? I hear there's a cryptocurrency too.
People are
right?
heavy on crypto, and at some
And
point,
that's why the CBN would not rest.
The CBN clamp down on crypto. A lot of Nigerians are heavy on crypto, and there's the ease of transaction with crypto. As soon as you send, you receive. You go to an exchange, you sell. CBN clamp down on these exchanges, but there's the peer-to-peer transfer that people now do. So it's not an exchange anymore. You just send to me, I send to whoever wants to buy at that point.
Basically out of the system.
Out of the system.
So are you saying that it would have been better if because the CBN is also mindful that some of these platforms could be abused, and people could lose their money, people could become victim of fraud and things like that.
Yes.
So that's why...
The lack of regulation on those platforms means
that's
that
another major issue.
There's increased susceptibility to fraud and all the things that you mentioned. But people want the ease of transaction. People want to be able to send their money without the CBN saying, okay, you can't, if you transfer, you cannot pull out cash, you must transfer from that account. Or if you put in cash, you must pull out cash. Those little things, it's just inconvenient for a lot of people. So the ease of transaction, especially with cryptocurrency, you send, the speed, the ease, everything is just smooth sailing. So a lot of inflows go via cryptocurrency.
But
and this
the naira to dollar policy should actually be attractive. I mean, if somebody has promised you're going to get more money.
More naira for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you officially, the official exchange rate is about 411, 413. The black market rate at this point is at 532 naira. So that gap, 122 naira, is substantial. It is significant, and I don't know anyone who would disregard that amount of spread. So it's not. I don't know what policy. People want transparency. People want to know not just remittance flows now, but investors want to know that is there a clear-cut path towards exchange rate convergence. I mean, if you devalued the currency, or took away the official rate, the old official rate at 389 or 397, took it to 413. But the black market rates, which were expected to converge towards the IFX, has actually depreciated. So it's not clear. It's as if, okay, look, this moves reek of desperation. There's not enough supply, and obviously demand far outstrips supply. So I mean, we feel that the black market rate will depreciate some more. So it makes sense to hold on to your foreign exchange or find unofficial means where you avoid the official rate and you get a black market rate which is higher. Okay,
looking at some of these management strategies that the CBN has used, how would you quantify the impact?
Especially the one they did not supplying to bureau
BDCs.
At the moment, the market still perceives there's a huge perception of supply constraints. I mean, there was the SDR inflow that we got, but then again, there's been huge, big-ticket items that the government has needed a lot of foreign exchange for. There's huge capital projects. There's the revamping of the refineries, which costs billions of dollars. The federal government will need to make down payments as much as 10, maybe 15%. So as the SDR inflows are coming in, huge chunk of that is going out to pay down payments on these huge capital projects. So it's not having the expected impact, the impact that we thought, okay, look, reserves are rising, but we should have, if reserves are rising, it means that the CBN has enough ammunition to support the currency with. But we're seeing it gradually move from 520, 525, 530, and we're at 532 as at yesterday. So at the moment, the market perception is that, look, there's simply not enough supply.
I guess, as a lot of people have said, the issue here is a revenue issue. It's creating more avenues to have the forex and not just playing around with what is available. They're trying to control demand
at the moment. Nigerians need foreign exchange manufacturers need it for their raw materials. Nigerians, even as much as 60% of every item you consume has
import
factor. So that is huge. I mean, if you cannot import, if there's a slight change, slight volatility of the currency, prices go up. It's because of that 60% import content on the basic items we consume. So at the moment, if there's a way you could shift demand to domestic items rather than the foreign components, then you would lay off. You have to ease off on currency pressures, but at the moment, this is a more mid to long-term solution. At the moment, these currency pressures are likely to persist.
Well, when can we see some, because right now, I don't know if you can see, in the foreseeable future that, the naira would actually strengthen,
What can strengthen the naira?
What can actually, strengthen the naira at this point?
In the black market, in the medium term, there's a Eurobond issuances that we have as much as 6 billion will be coming in. If there's a huge backlog of demand waiting to be met. If the CBN meets that, if we see some accretion external reserves, meaning that oil prices and production remain, high, favorably high, then we can see that then supply bottlenecks basically at the banks and bank branches where CBN, okay, you can't use BDCs anymore. So people have to go to banks. There's a lot of regulation, and it's really bureaucratic. The amount of documentation you need to obtain Forex, that's why people just ordinarily go to a BDC. So that is going to continue to weigh on what Forex supply, people consider this as a huge constraint. They will always be seeking the black market rate, black market sources of Forex. But in terms of increasing the supply, oil prices will support it. A Eurobond issuance will support it. Improving terms of trade with higher oil prices will also support it. If you look at the trade reports, we saw that Nigeria still exports cocoa beans as opposed to other countries where they sell these cocoa beans to the Netherlands that process it, cocoa powder and cocoa paste,
and then we now buy the imported and the processed one
from the cocoa value chain than the
I just wonder why.
These are avenues that we need to look into to increase Forex supply. I mean, if you get self-sufficiency in agriculture, if you can reduce, let's say, lower the amount of food that you import, increase the amount that you actually produce, and then at some point to get to self-sufficiency and stop importing food, then think about exports. As long as these are mid to long term.
We know what to do, but
Nosike, let's just be real for just a moment. Why does this seem so difficult for us? We have the human resources, we have the natural resources, we have the brains. Why does this seem so difficult for us to process this thing when we know this is the solution to a lot of problems? The problem of ethics, the problem of employment, the problem of insecurity. Why does it seem so difficult?
The resource curse.
The incentive system is flawed. If there's a very high cost of production in Nigeria, it makes more sense for some people, it makes more business sense, in economic sense, to import than to produce. It's cheaper to import. It's cheaper, and there's so many bottlenecks from the ports to the risk of your farms. I mean, the high cost of production, high cost of shipping transporting your items from the areas, from your farms to your factories or to the market. Those costs add up. It's cheaper to ship some of these things from other countries to the Lagos port. So as long as that cost is lower, people will just gravitate towards the lower cost. It's that simple. So you need to these incentives need to be given to businessmen. So if you have, say, 24 hours power supply, if you have a rail system that goes from your port to up north where the food producing belt of the country is, all little things like this will lower cost and give incentive to businessmen who will invest, and they see an opportunity, they invest, and they stand to profit from it. And these things will lower cost in the future and lower the demand for FX, and then you can see the Naira strengthening. It's a more medium to long term.
Okay, I think you should just take us through the commodities market.
Yeah, let's see what's happening there.
Overall, it's a harvest season where we should see prices generally trend lower, but these prices have been sticky.
Has the harvest season started, or it's starting in October?
It's September. Depends on it varies from commodity to commodity, really. But September is when, like for cocoa, September is when it starts. There's huge excessive rainfall. We've seen rains fall, I think, for the past 5 days.
Yes.
And that's for a commodity like cocoa. Say there's something called the black pod disease, and it thrives under excessive rainfall. And this is a huge risk at the moment. And cocoa seeds also need to be dried. And excessive rainfall and the fact that the cloud cover the past 5 days, there's been no sunshine. So we stand to lose a substantial amount of cocoa if the excessive rainfalls continue. That's for cocoa. For commodities in general, we've seen the price of, apart from the price of garri, trended lower, price of tomato, and price of yam, the new yam around this season. All the other prices have been static or trended higher. Trended higher because importing these commodities, there's a weaker exchange rate to import these commodities where they are produced in the country. Still, the insecurity in the food producing parts of the country, and that adds to the premium that we pay for commodities. So these are just
all right. Thank you so much, Nosike Wajide, research analyst at Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you so much for your time.
Always my pleasure.
All right, we'll move on to another conversation right after the break. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Well, it's time to talk about digital freight, a platform that is mandating the connecting of Africa to global trade by simplifying shipping process for SMEs and large enterprises across the African continent. We're talking about OnePort 365. And OnePort 365 seeks to make doing business easier for small and medium enterprises as their role, talk about SMEs now, increasing employment and driving the economy cannot be overemphasized. Obviously, that's why they have decided to focus on that. So we have Mr. Hioshola Osidame. He is a partner at OnePort 365 to tell us their business and how they're connecting SMEs in the country or in the world globally.
That's correct.
Good to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on the session this morning. Thank you.
So what's your business, OnePort 365?
So OnePort 365 is what we will call a digital freight management platform. It's a startup that's purely focused on supporting Africa's cross-border traders in regards to their trade across the world. Now, it's a major challenge for most cross-border traders in Africa due to infrastructural challenges, due to challenges associated with pricing, due to challenges associated with processing. What we've been able to do is simplify that process using the power of technology to ensure that there's as much visibility and the booking process is as easy and simple as possible.
Okay, can you paint a picture of how your business is actually helping this sector?
Okay, so I'll give you a typical scenario, right? So let's say you are a cocoa farmer, or let's say you're a ginger farmer sat in Kachia, Kaduna, right? And you're trying to export 1,000 tons of ginger to, let's say, Rotterdam, Holland. Typically, you're having to deal with different middlemen involved in the value chain. You're having to deal with a trucking firm. You're having to deal with a clearing agent, like we call it in Nigeria. You're having to deal with a shipping line. You're having to deal with a terminal, right? And the whole process can be so complex and quite cumbersome because of pricing efficiencies and because of numerous middlemen involved in the value chain. What we've been able to do is simplify that process, put everybody involved in the value chain onto a platform and enable traders, cross-border traders, to be able to go on there and book their shipments as easy as possible, simplifying that process. Now, the second thing is this, providing technology to support that with visibility. For 78% of the trucks on Nigerian roads have no visibility on them. What does that mean? There are no trackers, right? And for so many containers moving on the roads in Nigeria, the value of the goods they're carrying run into hundreds of millions. Now imagine the fact that you're having a truck that has no visibility on it and you're having to rely on someone to tell you the position of these containers. What does that mean? You are at high risk. We provide visibility on the shipments, which is super important for the consumers, for the cross-border traders who book via our platform. And that's a very, very key value addition to the product.
So you work a lot with technology.
Yes, it's tech-driven, right from the booking process down to the documentation process, down to the visibility on the shipments and the cargo. We are purely focused on containerized cargo. That's a key differentiator, right? And then we work mostly with traders who are exporting or importing to the African markets.
What about challenges at the ports? How are you able to overcome that?
Well, we constantly keep working with the regulators and having fantastic conversations with the regulators, namely the ports authorities, NEXIM, Nigeria Export-Import Bank, and also the terminals in Lagos have been super supportive, as well as terminals in One. It's always going to be a challenge, but we're also seeing adaptation of technologies in some of the processes that isn't the export or import process. There's been a lot of digitization around the trailer parks heading into Apapa ports. Has it eased the process 100%? Not entirely, but there's an improvement on the process, which is a step in the right direction. We're seeing that being introduced currently to Tinkan Island port as well, and we're hoping for the best with that as well. So yeah, we're seeing changes. It's a gradual process. Are we there yet? Not at all.
So an SME operator watching this program will be like, oh, this sounds good. Or isn't this an extra cost to me?
Oddly enough, it's not. Typically on transactions, we save between 15 and 18% to most of the SMEs who book via our platform, which is mostly because we can actually operate at scale using technology and we can simplify the process. Now, for the SMEs as well, we also support them in what we call trade finance, which means basically we allow them focus on their trading and we can cover the cost in regards to the logistics, whereby they can pay back over a period of time. So we support them on their process. We're key lovers of SMEs.
Right.
SMEs are the brainchild of every government, and we're supporters of SMEs.
Okay, so what routes does OnePort 365 currently service, and what are the other routes you're looking to, in the future?
So currently, we would say we've covered as much as 80% of Nigeria in terms of we've served as much as 80% of Nigerian states in the 36 states in Nigeria. So we've covered a large proportion of the country, and that's a fantastic one for us. So we've had shipments either originate from those locations or be delivered to those locations. We're looking to scale past that to 36 states in Nigeria by the end of this year. We're also firm believers this is a Pan-African solution, which is a key thing for us. We're looking to get started in Q4 in the Ghanaian market, which we think is interesting. By the end of 2022, we should be across 8 countries in Africa. We're aggressive in terms of our growth.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, I know, very aggressive in terms of our growth. And we see massive opportunities across Africa. We think Kenya is an interesting market. We think Cameroon is an interesting market. The cocoa hubs in the Ivory Coast also is an interesting market for us. So we're quite excited about the opportunity to scale across Africa.
Yeah, it will be very exciting to have a Nigerian company, you know, in all these places.
Yes.
I think to be a thing of pride.
Correct.
But another thing is that, I mean, you are also going to be operating in the same environments that these SMEs, the normal challenges, the infrastructure challenges, the insecurity challenges.
Right.
Now, how do you assure your clients that these things will not stop your delivery as you have promised them? Because, I mean, you can still say, oh, you know, we're operating in the same Nigerian environment. I have the same challenge as you have. So what assurance do you have for your clients to ensure that in spite of this, we've got this covered?
Right. So we have, I think a key thing that's a plus for clients revolves around visibility around shipments. And that has always been a key driver that we offer on our shipments, on the shipments that we load either for import or export. We can provide visibility. Yes, the market is tough. We understand that, right? But to a large extent, despite the challenges, we still have shipments that originate even from northeastern part of Nigeria, and we have shipments that originate across the country. So despite tough challenges, despite the economic situation, we're super excited about Nigeria, and we think there are massive opportunities to continue to grow in this market.
Right. So, you know, Nigeria is an import, dependent
Correct, yes.
country. Do you
Yeah.
think your business could, encourage, more of exportation, for Nigeria?
Oh, yes. Yes. So for us, that would actually be a fantastic plus for us. We think there are opportunities to grow across processing zones, right? So rather than continue to export raw materials, we're talking of cashew, cocoa, and ginger. Processing zones can come into place and basically be a processor for this small-scale farmers, commercial farmers who can increase their productivity and look at the international market as a single market. We're super excited also about the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, which is kicking in, which hopefully should kick in anytime soon. And we're very positive the trader who trades in Dano market in Kano can equally see Takoradi in Ghana as an equal market and an equal opportunity to Lagos for him. So yes, we're very, very, very key drivers of the opportunities to grow. And we hope eventually we'll continue to work with organizations such as Nexim Bank in terms of scaling the opportunity for exporters.
Okay, so what's your secure financial investment strategy?
Okay, so in terms of financial investment strategy, we are very much a startup, which means we are heavily backed by venture capitalist firms who understand very much the importance of digitizing this process in Africa, right? The world is a global village. So if Africa is left behind, right, and people are still having to do pen and paper to carry files and move files everywhere and having to call up an agent and call up this, call up that, and work with an opaque system, Africa will be left behind. So we're heavily backed by venture capitalist firms who understand what we're trying to do, and that gives us a level to support SMEs and manufacturers across the market.
What's your strategy for expansion?
Our strategy for expansion is continue to expand across the key markets in Africa, right? So that's why I mentioned earlier markets such as Ghana, markets such as Kenya. We see Ivory Coast as an interesting place as well. We look at the Southern African basin, and we also think there are massive opportunities out there. So we're aggressive in terms of the way our approach to the market in terms of expansion, and we see the opportunities as endless. A key driver for that is the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, which is a positive execution for us.
Yeah, talking about the AfCFTA, very interesting and a lot of potentials there.
Very correct, yes.
So how are you working with the government? Are you working with maybe the NACIMA, LCCI? Who are those you're working on? What's the strategy? So it's not just, oh, this is an exciting idea, yes, and it ends or dies an, yes, idea.
Right. So currently we're working in partnership with C-Link. C-Link is a brainchild of Nexim, that's Nigerian Export-Import Bank. And the purpose of C-Link is to simplify the process of trade across Africa to a large extent. I'll give you a typical example. You're trying to ship, let's say, sesame seed to Bujumbura in Burundi, right? I'll tell you what, the typical movement of that cargo is it goes to Europe first of all, sits in Europe for a couple of weeks, and then comes down to East Africa. The whole process of moving cargo just from Lagos port down to the port of Mombasa in Kenya can take between 6 to 8 weeks. Why? Right? So the main purpose of C-Link is to simplify the transit process and the movement of cargo within Africa. A lot of the shipping routes are still very much the shipping routes that were established in the pre-colonial era. We need to start working together as a single market in Africa, and that's why we're key drivers of C-Link in terms of the expansion of C-Link across Africa, and something we're very excited about.
All right, so can I access your service like on my phone, or how does it work?
So we're very much web-based right now. We have a web portal that gives you a channel to go on there and make your bookings. Almost as easy as booking a flight ticket to fly from Lagos to Abuja. You can book your containerized cargo from origin down to destination on there. You don't need to call anybody. You don't need to send an email. You go on there, and then you get what we call almost like a price comparison site. Based on your budget, based on your cost, based on your transit time, you can book the services on there, and you can get 100% execution.
Okay, so you mentioned that you also want to connect with the SMEs in the process of not just exporting raw materials, you know, but at least processing it is a conversation we had just before you came into the studio. So do you work with them? Do you do the issue of processing? Do you do the issue of quality?
Quality, yeah.
Because, I mean, when it comes to exporting, one of the factors, especially in agricultural products, is sometimes they send it and they find, oh, there are some insects and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And these have spoiled brands.
Very correct.
And a lot of countries do not have confidence in...
I mean, I'm talking of that. A couple of years ago, hibiscus originating from Nigeria was as good as banned in the Mexican market, right? Because basically it gets there and then you see issues around pesticides, and then, you know, quality was a major issue. We support SMEs in regards to that. We have partners who can provide that service in terms of quality checks. We also support SMEs in linking them with potential buyers across those markets, right? And that's a key thing. So many people want to get involved in cross-border trade, but the question is, who is a buyer? Can I get a reliable buyer? We can provide that support where possible. And then in terms of quality checks, in terms of quality control, we're happy to actually support SMEs on that service.
Sounds like a one-stop shop for
everything.
Correct. Cross-border trade, you should be looking at OnePort 365.
So is it just SMEs, or do you have is it just agriculture?
Oh, so we work with some of the top mining firms in Nigeria. Yeah, so we work with a lot of miners who are based out of northern Nigeria. We work with agro-allied guys, some of the big names in the space, agro-allied. We also work with quite a number of FMCGs who operate and trade across Africa. Okay. So it's quite broad range in terms of the service covering and the service offering.
All right, what's your relationship like with the regulators, say for the customs now?
Because, I mean, you're dealing with the road, you talk of customs. Exactly. At the ports, you have the NPA. Exactly. You have a lot of regulators to deal with.
We do, and it's always a constant conversation. I would say on the positive side, we have those conversations quite often, and we see that they know the need and the requirements for digitizing this process, right? Africa basically needs to make that move and step away from a manual, opaque system to a streamlined process, basically. Right. So the conversations are always fantastic, right? We can do better. There's always an avenue to do better. And yeah, we're very positive. Virtually, the right steps we're taking the right steps in the right direction.
And what's your outlook for the freight business, going forward in Nigeria?
Well, the outlook is, I'll say, rather positive. Opportunities exist. We need to have a price control in regards to pricing, especially.
What do you mean by that?
So I'll take, for example, typically at the ports, right? Prices go this, right?
Direction.
I mean, right. and that's the thing. What we don't understand is the more cyclical the prices are, the more it affects the consumer,
of course.
Right? So the guy who's bringing in, let's say, equipment to start production of sugar. No, sugar is limited to 3. Production of some commodities. If his logistics cost from the port to his factory is 3 times the cost he's used to import those equipments from China, he's going to pass it on to the final consumer, and it affects everybody, myself, yourself, and everybody in the space.
And at the end of the day, we have inflation figures.
Correct.
Well, I really have to thank you, Hugh Shola Osidame, partner at OnePort 365.
Correct. Thank you.
More than 360.
More than 360.
Thank you so much for joining us on the
for
show this
me
morning,
today.
and
Thank
enjoy
you.
the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So move over to the markets now. Will Ibong is standing by to give us details from the markets.
Good morning, Ini.
Good morning.
Yes, the market is not looking so great, but we have hope. The stock market started this week's trading with mixed sentiments. However, it closed on a negative note despite the positive market breadth that we saw, because profit-taking activities in the Stanbic IBTC, UBA, and flour mill pull back the market. We're seeing profit-taking persistent in the market despite earnings that are coming in. I think that's what's motivating investors. The all-share index traded flat at 0.02% at 39,252.89 points. We're now looking at a month-to-date gain of just 0.1%, with market losing about 4 billion naira of the value of listed equities. The total volume of trades increased by 17% to about 210 million units, valued at 1.38 billion naira, and traded in over 3,900 deals. The shares of Access Bank was hot in the market. It topped the value and volume chart. The bank released its earnings last week, and apparently investors are smiling. Performance across the sectors was mostly positive. All key indexes recorded gains except for the consumer goods index, which was down by 0.41%, and all thanks to Flour Mill Nigeria. I'll flip over to the unlisted markets, where the picture was not so bright there, as the index and the market cap also closed negative, down by 0.38%. Total turnover declined as well. However, the value of securities traded increased by 9.67% of the 6 securities that were traded yesterday. Now, to talk more about this, we have standing by on the phone Rotimi Fakayejo, a stockbroker at the NGX. Good morning, Rotimi.
Good morning, Will.
Now, what does the Stanbic IBTC's Q2 financial performance portend for the market? We're just jumping right into it.
Well, it is still concern to the market, and I think the drop of about 50% in their profit after tax for the end of half year is quite alarming. And I think, looking more into the figures, I saw that there is an 83% drop in their trading revenue, which is a very major source of revenue for them. And I think that also is a major concern, because it exceeds their normal core business to a great extent. So I think this kind of result is what is responsible for the downward trend that we saw yesterday, because the stock lost 75 crore. And at the end of the day, we had a different ball game for the market. I didn't feel that the market really suffered that kind of loss through the share price of Stanbic IBTC. The market will have placed marginally up. So I think going forward, the results of GTCO, UBA, and Fidelity Bank in the banking sector, which are still outstanding, will definitely speak more on which direction the market is going to go, at least in the next 1 or 2 weeks.
So while we wait for the results of GT Bank and the rest of them, we're still going back to Stanbic IBTCs. I don't know if you mentioned it, but though they recorded a loss, but they had 100 kobo, that's about ₦1 dividend per share for their shareholders. As in, how would you explain that?
Well, I think when you look at the earnings per share for the half year, I think it's about ₦1.94 kobo. And that implies that for a banking sector stock, they are paying more than 50% of their earnings. And that is quite unusual. So investors are not actually impressed with the ₦1 dividend, because what normally happens with Stanbic IBTC Bank is that they pay the chunk of their dividend in the first half of the year, and they just maybe a factory sum at the end of the financial year. So investors believe that even if they buy now and take the ₦1, the share price will definitely suffer a setback, because what they're going to get at the end of the year will not be commensurate to the kind of investment they're putting in. Unlike other banks, which, for instance, the Access Bank or Zenith Bank, that have paid 30 kobo now, what they are going to pay in the second half of the year, by the time we enter into 2022, when the full audited report will be released, is a more bumper return for investors than what we are seeing. So it's just the reverse. So investors are actually looking at that, and they are rewarding the results as it were, in spite of the ₦1 dividend payment that they want to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fakayojo. That was Rotimi Fakayojo, stockbroker at the NGX. We'll now move over to the fixed income markets, where the bond market had a relatively quiet session yesterday as well, with some slight demand at the short to mid end of the curve, with little volumes passed at the long end of the curve as well. Offers improved by 10 basis points, with some trades happening on the 2035 bonds. However, yields expanded across the benchmark curve, rising by 6 basis points on the average. At the Treasury bills market, we saw that sentiments were bullish as the average yield was unchanged at about 4.6%. However, market participants are still expecting higher yields at the forthcoming primary auction. That's tomorrow, where 138.17 billion naira worth of bills will be on offer. And there were some buy activities on the CBN special bills segment, and OMO maturities. We're expecting OMO maturities of about 70 billion naira, also scheduled tomorrow, with slightly bullish sentiments expected in the secondary market. So, Ini, that's what we have from the markets report. We're hoping tomorrow, well, today's results is going to be very positive for us, and we'll have something to sing about tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess, well, it's not a crime to keep hoping. We'll keep hoping until our hope comes to reality. Thank you so much, Will. So let's take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll do an opening call to London. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we'll head straight to London now, where we have Juliana standing by. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Ini.
Yeah, so the following scheme is close to its end. And we're also hearing about job cut data. What's the details of this?
Well, I think it's probably safe to say that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the month, because everything is really pretty much up in the air. According to the latest government figures, about 1.9 million Brits are still on the job retention scheme, otherwise known as the furlough scheme, which has been very successful in saving millions of jobs in the pandemic and stopping the unemployment data from, spiraling out of control. It's been going on for a very long time, costs the taxpayer about £70 billion. And the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, had tried over the past 18 months to try and wind it down several times. But because of the increasing cases, which led to increasing lockdowns, it was extended. But it will definitely be coming to an end at the end of this month. And estimates vary widely about how many people will lose their jobs. Some say tens of thousands, some say hundreds of thousands. But because of the global, well, not the global, there's global shortages, but specifically in the UK, the vacancy level are at record highs. According to Reed, which is a job recruitment site, last week there were about 1.6 million jobs advertised. Now, that's record-breaking here in the UK, and unemployment data is still very, very low. So although people may be concerned, it is a really, really good good time to join the labour market. And there are so many jobs available. So hopefully, you know, if people are feeling insecure, they should just look at this data and know that they could actually get a really good job.
Yeah, and you don't get this opportunity all the time. Well, the UK has fired up an old coal power plant to meet its electricity needs. Isn't this reducing the gains from, you know, the programs that deal with climate change and switching to clean energy?
Well, yeah, I suppose in short, the answer to that is yes. But the government target to completely phase out coal is still 3 years away in 2024. So there is still time to get to that stage. I think Britain are considering themselves, well, I suppose Boris Johnson's Conservative government have considered themselves to be one of the leading countries when it comes to phasing out coal and using alternative electricity supply methods such as solar wind power. 5 years ago, 25% of Britain's electricity was powered by coal. Last year, it was reduced to 2.5%. At the moment, we're using about 3%. So we're definitely still way on target. But, you know, the climate emergency has delivered some very sporadic weather. Like, for example, it's September, and I can tell you now it's likely to hit about 30 degrees today in central London. And because of the prolonged heat, even though some of our viewers in London would say they didn't get a summer a couple of months ago, but because of the prolonged heat in Europe, solar winds are not producing enough energy, which is why they've had to sort of power up this coal mine. But yes, they are still very much on target to reach the goal of phasing out coal entirely by 2024.
All right. Thank you so much, Juliana. And we'll talk to you later at 1:30 during Business Incorporated.
Thank you.
So let's go over to the crypto space now with Laddie Williams.
Hello, Winnie. Well, let's see how the market is looking right now. According to the Fear Greed Index, is at 79. Extreme greed. If you remember a couple of months ago, we were here at extreme fear. And, you know, you can use this Fear Greed Index to your advantage to know when the market is overheated, time to take some profit. So this is extreme greed right here. Market is still looking strong. Bitcoin above $50,000. The market cap, $2.38 trillion, up by 1.40%. 24-hour volume traded this morning, $144.55 billion. Bitcoin dominance sitting at 41.66%. Let's bring in Rume Ofina, digital market analyst. Hello, Rume. Good morning.
Good morning, Laddie.
Good morning, Rume. So El Salvador has finally made Bitcoin a legal tender. It's trending all over the place right now on social media. It's quite an historic moment, you know, first country to adopt Bitcoin. What are the risks and benefits here?
All right. I like the fact that the president, Nayib Bukele, is quite young, just 40 years, and is very innovative. I will come from this point where, you know, El Salvador is about 6 million in population, right? And about 50% of them reside in the U.S. So there's this huge flow of remittances back home, which amounts to about $400 million annually as commission, as remittance, sending money home. You know, so that using Bitcoin is going to be cut short. You know, so these guys are so they are so smart. I think this is the best thing that will ever happen to that country. They also, as well, make sure that there are no loopholes that will attract bad actors, because every technology, people like to take advantage of it to come up with crimes and all of those things. So they've actually come to say, oh, they have dedicated wallets. So they've actually sent out about 200 ATMs that ordinary citizens in El Salvador can go and put their Bitcoin and get cash, you know, for it to be very easy, because about 70% of these people residing there don't have bank accounts. So that will help. So there's a unique wallet called Shibu that will also be provided to banks in that country. So if you are sending doing transactions around crypto to dollar here and there, it is going to be noticed. So it's not going to be an idea where you can just push money, because all around governments of this world are in a way trying to just push the information that, oh, crypto is for bad actors, crypto is for thieves all around. But they don't understand that this has a very good opportunity to
Rume, with how volatile Bitcoin is, don't you think they should be moving towards a stable coin?
Okay, that is also very smart. Talking about volatility here and there. But you can see now that the highest Bitcoin can go compared to 2017, where we can see 50% up, 50% down. The market has been reasonably stable. You can see from all of the China Ford to the Elon Musk jump and all of those things. Worst case scenario, 30%. On a single day, 30% is unrealistic. It doesn't happen. It takes a while. But we see that the market bounce back at the end of the day, which will help them to benefit a lot more from than the conventional way.
Okay, Rume, we're going to play a quick game now. Cardano, Solana, Ethereum. You need to buy one, you need to sell one, and you need to hold one. What's it going to be?
I will pick Solana. Reason being that, not because Solana is pumping, I think my next bet after Solana should be ADA. Why? Because the Solana network is massive. That is, it has a technology called proof of history. That is, as you are queuing up for your VApp or stuff or any of the infrastructure you are building on that to go in, immediately transactions are done in speed that is on.
All right, but I need to know what you're going to sell, what you're going to buy, what you're going to hold.
That is so okay. That is so spot on, man. I'm going to tell you this because I'm so excited where the market is going. I'm going to buy ADA because very soon ADA is coming with it. Going to launch its platform with DeFi and all of those things very soon. So I'll prioritize ADA first because I'm sticking with the idea of buying the rumor and selling the news. So I'm going to keep ADA. Then I'll do Solana. There's all of those projects around the Solana ecosystem.
All right, Rume, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, Edie, the market is looking good today. El Salvador, they're trending right now, being the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender, and the market is looking green, not bad.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, because like you noticed, shouldn't they be tilting more towards the stable coins?
Right. Yeah,
because
how volatile,
Bitcoin is. I mean, less than a month ago, just about 30,000.
Yeah, gone as low as 29,000.
I hope it will not drag the economy this way or the other.
Yeah, the risks are there, though.
Yeah, I guess they're ready for that risk. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ini John Mekwadu. Remember to join us at 1:30 p.m. Business Incorporated. We'll bring you updates from the world of business.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for watching.